And we are live, starting off with a bark. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of our weekly FreudenFreude video podcast, I guess you would say it, where we bring you content to help you grow as a person and as a leader.
Perfect. And I am Sandra Corona.
And I am Claudia Chimendi, just Claudia. And we are
Are
coaches.
coaches. Okay, cool. Better.
Go ahead.
You're doing good? Okay. So I am a coach for expatriates, for leaders, and young professionals.
And as you see, Sandra's introduction is getting better and better by the week. So good job. And I'm a professional coach for corporate leaders, entrepreneurs, as well as their teams in tech and beyond. There we go. Today we have a very interesting topic, and that is adapting values, morals, and beliefs. Like, what's the big deal? What's the difference? And, are they changeable? Are they not? And all that good stuff. So, much has been said about it, and still much confusion remains. So, what attracts you to this topic, Sandra?
So I discovered somehow I came across somebody talking about morals and values. And I had not realized that nobody now talks about morals because morals are still a taboo. Talking about morals is kind of emotions and feelings and that kind of stuff, right? So it's kind of, values have kind of taken over morals, although they're not the same. They are interchangeable. They have similarities. And so I thought it was a very interesting topic to discuss because, well, we haven't touched morals the longest time. I mean, in LinkedIn, nobody talks about it. So why not? Let's talk about examples and see if at some point we kind of clash and say, you know what, they're the same thing. I don't know.
Actually, that's my big thing. I do not know. I really just live in the morals and beliefs world. And you know, so any kind of introduction you could give to myself and our viewers out there would be really good. What is your thing, or what have you picked up as a definition of morals, or what is it that you understand when you hear the word? Enlighten us.
So morals are, it's like our compass, right? They're our North Star. We are born with that innate feeling of what is right and wrong. Okay. We already kind of know it. Like your whole body trembles when something does not feel right. And it has nothing to do with consciousness or nothing like that. I mean, sometimes you can be completely in another topic with another person discussing something else, and suddenly your hair and you're like, what happened? And you're sensing danger, you're sensing that something is not right.
Mm-hmm.
And so morals, in other words, are just things that it's a feeling that your body produces. It's this, I couldn't call it an emotion or a feeling. It's a sensation. I think it's more of a sensation. It comes from the gut, okay, not from the heart, not from the brain, but more from the gut. When they say, oh, something's going on, it just doesn't feel right. It always comes from here, from the bottom. So that's what I thought about morals. And now values have emotions involved. Okay. Values are when you feel, shame, when you feel challenged, when you feel upset, when you feel, everything that comes with emotions, that's what values is a part of. Okay. And so let me see. So, in other words, morals do have emotions only depending on the experience and on the situation, but they are like at the moment. They're born at that moment. Okay. Morals are about what you believe in. Okay. Careful, because values are the same thing. And morals, you start building them with as you grow up with your family kind of tells you, this is
Right.
immoral, this is moral, and so on and so on. So, that's what I thought it would be a good idea to distinguish. I don't know if I've answered your question. Tell me if there's still more that I need to
Well,
extend.
well, I think that you kind of contradicted yourself a little bit because
Exactly.
earlier you said that morals are innate. And then
Mhm.
nevertheless, you say that they're influenced by our upbringing and, uh, that our parents kind of give us that onto our, give us that as well. So there's an element of culture associated with it as well in terms of what we
Exactly, as
consider
well. Yes.
moral or not moral. So let's maybe clarify that. But it
Mhm.
is this maybe we could think of it as something separate that makes us judge or gives us the compass to judge. And of course, if we look at something as extremely unfair, as extremely disgusting, whatever that happens to be,
Mhm.
for you, then you would make a morality judgment. I imagine that also like what we always grew up with was knowing in terms of, fairness and justice and human rights and all these kind of things. I think they're judgments, and so they make us moral or immoral, essentially, depending on how we act on it. So yes, there might be innate human uh, compass parts or like fixed points or guidance that comes, but there might also be some culture component to it. Values for me is just what we value. Okay, what we consider truly important in terms of our lives, our contribution, our uh, the things that make our heart sing, that make us feel expansive, and just the stuff that really we value and just is the stuff that makes up who we are and what we stand for and so on. Not necessarily with a value judgment attached, meaning the value just is. And different people value different things. Some might, the top spot might be their family. Other people, the top spot might be their professional contribution that they make. For other people, it might be health or travel or whatever. And there's no right or wrong. That does not make, one person's values better or worse than others. There's no value attached to it. It's a personal thing about what you value as important. And so my number one spot is contribution, always has been. And so, for other people it's completely different, and that's fine. And so I think that the important things about values in a coaching perspective is to allow our clients to get clarity on them and to maybe find their top five, because there's not just one. We can value health and family and travel and generosity and all these kind of things. We can value them, but usually there's some priority attached to it. So for our clients, then what would it mean if they have the list of their top 5 or top 8 or whatever of those values? I think in order to live a truly fulfilled life, you are going to turn these values that are sometimes these abstract concepts into something that you live, something that permeates the fabric of your life, of your everyday being. And so our everyday life and our everyday being is a series of decisions. So having clarity about our values is going to help us make decisions that
Yes.
are, bringing us that fulfillment and that expansiveness that we seek, and that ultimately is going to make us happy.
Right.
So that I think is where I stand with at least, morals and beliefs. Again, morals, don't quote me on any of these things, folks, because it's not a concept I use a lot or am that familiar with. So I'm just like,
Yes. Well, here's the thing. So like I said before, morals, um, they have a certain involvement in emotions, but only based on the situation that is happening at the moment. Okay. However, those emotions do not determine or define your decisions, because at the end of the day, it's either right or it's wrong, period. That's what morality is. Values, like we said before, involve emotions, sadness, happiness, um, uh, fear, anger, all those things. And one of the tricks that I used in order for my values to be lived, completely and fully, was to include emotions into them. So, for example, if for me happiness is family, so I say, my first value is I put my family first because they give me happiness. That's how values are supposed to be. Now, when you talk about morals, so for example, this is the most funniest thing that I actually gave you this example. So please, people, forgive me, but it's going to be a little bit crude, but it's the truth. So you're at a party, right? And suddenly you see a very nice girl, a very handsome guy, and you are the kind of person that says, no, I am not going to, go and talk to the first person that, looks at me pretty. And I am not going to do that kind of thing. That's a moral. That's a morality, okay? Because it has this big sentence, if it makes sense, where values is just my family is first, period. And they give me happiness. Morals, you kind of find everything behind it. You kind of look for the excuse to not do what you don't want to do. Yet at the end of the day, morals can be dropped like values are harder to leave to the side because those are the ones that you guide your life with, right? It's like a company. They have values. They have, uh, uh, you know, habits. They have all these kind of things that are part of their policies that make the company who they are. So basically, what they're saying is, we are not going to stray from this. This is how we're going to manage our company. But if they were to manage it based on morals, well, we all know that companies, when it comes to morals, they need to make the best decisions for the company, not for the people. So in a way, it sounds like morals are the last thing that companies are thinking about. That's how it truly is.
yeah, yeah,
What do
yeah.
you think?
Well, it's I'm not sure if in the end the difficulty in putting the finger on this is that fundamentally they are very different. they're apples and oranges. Values are values, morals are morals. And morals, again, are a value judgment. And they can be experienced in, under the umbrella, under the light of our values and our belief systems and our culture, of course. So all of that has an impact. On the other hand, I really think that it's, um, maybe the thing is this, and again, I'm just trying to wrap my brain around this, that when we are experiencing something, we are then um, analyzing this situation from different aspects. First of all, our upbringing, our maybe personal preferences, but also our values. And because a situation, like this lady at the party, right? She might have decided not to go out with this pretty boy or whatever. And that was her decision based on her values, which might be family, chastity, long-term relationships, that some people might need certain specs, in order to even be a candidate, and that's all fine. She is absolutely entitled to make these decisions. The lady next to her, the girl next to her, might look at this guy and jump all over him because she's her main thing might be fun and so what makes one moral or immoral ultimately, if it's not something that society as a whole has agreed to, ultimately it's a personal decision. So I think that culture, values, and just our state in that moment, in that situation, because, we might have a good day or a bad day, all factor into that. And so, it's just like, how do we make decisions in terms of how to go forward and be in sync essentially with our emotional state, and also understanding what potential consequences should be. So maybe it's just a different way of formulating this decision making aspect.
Um, I was thinking, I'm sorry, it's just that I was thinking a little bit as to whether, FreudenFreude, we are about not judging, right? And so morals, I think that morals, based on what you were saying, I think morals is also generational. It is age related, right? Because when you are young, right, your morals are not going to be the same as when you grow up. So when you're a baby, even babies know what is right and wrong. They even know it, they feel it. There's been studies where babies can say the difference between right and wrong, okay? Because number one, that's communicated to them with behaviors, with not looking at them. They can feel shame, they can feel sadness, they can feel so many things. So why not believe that babies can also understand it? Now, one of the things about right and wrong also comes judgment, right? Although morality is intended to really not be judged.
OTP,
Oh,
Amazon.
I'm sorry. Give me just a second. I have to provide something. If you want to take over, please.
Sure. So I mean, judgment is so multifaceted, and I still do not exactly understand how then this morality part is fundamentally um, similar or different from values and from beliefs. I think if we were to abstract them away for the better sense of the world, and word and focus on values and beliefs? Because aren't they a certain sense of belief, though, of what is right and what is wrong? They might be very highly contextual, but ultimately, isn't it based on, your belief system, on how things should be, on what your preferences are, and so on. And you mentioned that they're changeable. So fundamentally, they're different from values, and they're also much more concrete, I think, and contextual than values. So,
Mhm, mhm.
and maybe, the message here is that, at least for my part, I need to do much more homework on this, if I feel so inclined, because it's I can't really put my finger on it quite yet.
Well, I think, Claudia, the reason why some people cannot nowadays, it's because a lot of us try to live our lives the best way possible, right? Good. We try to be respectful. We do what it is expected of a good person. And that is morality. That is where you choose to be a better person than the person next to you. Like you said, the girl that is here that said no to the nice guy, or well, to the cute face. The other one said, why not? And so I think when we are trying to focus, sorry, it's just that I lost my train of thought. My husband came in. Can you remind me what is that I was saying? Because I was trying to get somewhere.
Well, I got kind of distracted
You
myself.
too. Okay. Okay. Wait. Okay, let me try to recall.
Well,
Okay,
some might want to, would go with the guy, and some would not, and it depends on the kind of standards, maybe, by which they hold themselves, and the just what they consider acceptable or not, or tolerable or not. And does that play into it?
yeah, I was thinking. Okay, so I was trying to make some recollection. So yeah, I mean, what I was saying is that morals, just simply, you can just decide whether you're going to do the right thing or not do the right thing. Okay. We are grown-up people. We've been living our lives based on morals at the beginning, because in reality, children don't have values. They start understanding values eventually, right? Their parents start introducing to them values and all this kind of stuff, boundaries and all this nice stuff that children need, so that they can live their lives in better ways. Now, this is what I was thinking. Morality and values, to me, are different, just because, for example, yeah, you pick up morals as you go, okay? But at the end of the day, what is right and what is wrong. If, for example, one of the values of the company is to have you as a girl wearing high heels with little tiny skirts, and doing presentations in that way and all that kind of stuff, that is a value for the company, but your moral compass is telling you this doesn't feel comfortable, this doesn't feel right, and then eventually you start getting comfortable with it, because you start doing it because you value your job, because somehow, somewhere, your company is treating you good, and in your values, one of your values is money, right? So, but at the end of the day, dressing in little skirts and wearing high heels so that you can get clients and all that kind of stuff, it still feels wrong. So I think if you start thinking a little bit of what are the values and what are the morals, it is just simply to say what is right and what is wrong. And that's why psychopaths,
But it's
they
right,
lack that.
right? But it's right or wrong for you. Because
Exactly. That's it. Not for society.
the girl next to you might be, absolutely, loving the fact that she has to dress up that way or behave that way, or put on those girly girl airs, right? Um, yeah, I think that maybe we're beating a dead horse to death here. The
Hi.
the thing is that it is ultimately about personal choice and personal preferences, about what we value, what we tolerate, what we um, not value, but what we consider right or wrong for our own selves, and so on. And it can be linked to our values. Like if your values are modesty in terms of personal appearance and personal projection and things like that, then you're not going to be happy putting yourself out there like that. So values play into it. And so I think that the and the morals seem ultimately very changeable, very context specific. You might fall in with a different culture group and all of a sudden your morals change. You might have new life experiences or move someplace else into a different culture, and all of a sudden your morality compass can change. So
But Claudia, everything that we do, everything that we believe in, everything how we live life is all individual. So therefore, morals and values are going to be the same thing. There is nothing connected to society. Now, it is true that as you grow up, yes, your morals in some way you're going to try to align them to the society that you grow. That's what let's look at it this way. There's people that have loose morals, not because they're bad, but because based on where they live. And this could be like a nude camp, right? A nude city, a nude beach. Is it wrong? Absolutely not. Right? That's how they live. That's how they want to do things. And that's why morals are also part of judgment, but then at the same time, no, because as long as some people say, well, I'm not killing anybody, I'm not hurting anybody, I'm not doing anything wrong. So why is what I do a problem for you? Right. And that's still not a value. That's still a morality thing because I'm not doing anything wrong. So therefore, you should just let me be, live and let live.
right.
Okay. So now what happens, for example, the ladies that have morals that are extremely tight. Well, the ones that go to church every day, that go and, I mean, I'm not judging there, right? There's people that do that. There's really good people. There's people that actually take it by heart and do really good stuff. And then there's the other ones, like in my country, where ladies go to church every single day. And when they leave the church, they're screaming and saying all these obscenities, this kind of stuff. They're doing things that are not supposed to be done. Why? Because, like I said before, morals are so easily dropped. They just drop like easily, okay, like your panties, in other words. Now, let's talk about something that I was reading through, and this is maybe something that I do want to discuss because I don't know if it has. Well, let's see. So I was reading that the Greeks first managed their thoughts, their empiricism, and all that kind of stuff on morals. Okay, because somehow, somewhere, morality gave them the idea that reaching the best morals in life would give you a virtuoso life, a virtuous life.
Virtual.
Okay, right? And so I'm thinking, wow, so are we saying that um, philosophers and all that kind of all those people first managed morality? Because I've never heard any one of them talk about values. They talk more about what is the best way to live. In other words, what's right and what's wrong. What do you think?
Well, I think that, virtue and, on its flip side, I mean, let's take the seven deadly sins, right? I mean,
Yes.
Oz and Lust and all the, those seven guys. And it's, for them, it was just codified that if you want to be a person of good character and good morals, that you would abstain from certain things, right? And I think Plato wrote books and books and books about this thing, for instance, right? And it's but you could still do the same today. I mean, you could even take any kind of religion and come up with a codex that they consider proper and desirable and things like that. And I'm not saying that they were wrong and there's things that they wrote about and discussed that absolutely hold true again today. But it's just an opinion ultimately.
Mhm,
Right? If in
mhm,
the Western world we still abide by the majority of what they said and would still kind of agree as a society that, being productive is better than being lying on the couch all day long, then that's fine. And
mhm,
so I think that maybe what was special about them is that they were the first ones to try to name it, try to give a framework around it, and so on. And there again, it was truly this judgment call of this is right and that is wrong. It's like, in Christianity you have, the Ten Commandments and things like that.
mhm,
This is right, this is wrong, do this, don't do that. So how that really fits into your decision making, though, is up again to you. Do you
mhm,
subscribe by it? Do you hold it as something absolute that you follow all the time, or do you go off on a tangent and do your own thing? Ultimately,
mhm,
it's up to everybody, and the big word here is self-responsibility. Make your decisions and then bear the consequences of it. Be
mhm,
responsible for your decisions, your actions, and so on. And, I think that a lot of that requires just some thought and not
mhm,
mindless, knee jerk, gut level reactions all the time without giving any kind of thought about what is important to you, like your values. If there are certain codices that you want to abide by, like commandments of your faith or character imperatives that might be important to you because of your culture or your family and so on, and then your own personal beliefs, your what you decide that you're going to tolerate, what you decide that you're going to um, uh, truly make happen or not. So ultimately, I think that maybe the way that I, in my very limited understanding of morals, now see, it's just this whole other dimension that can uh, lead to some self-reflection that will impact the way that you make decisions. And especially if you become clearer maybe about what your morality compass is and have clarity about it and being able to point your finger at it and say, yes, this is what I consider right, this is what I consider wrong. It's just going to make your decision making clearer and easier. If you have a compass that tells you, this is right and this is wrong, so I'm gonna stay away from this and move towards that, then obviously your decision making is going to be facilitated by that. And maybe, I mean, for me personally, I would probably put the pin in it with that at this moment, because it's, I really do not know. It's already complicated enough when we talk about values and beliefs. And
mhm.
maybe all of that is a mix of preference and culture and just how you feel about it. And let's keep emotions in there, because sometimes we have emotions about certain things without necessarily being able to pin it down with exact accuracy about why it is that you feel that way. So just keep all of that in mind when you make decisions on how to proceed.
Well, I wanted to, for example, when I talk about myself, I think it's a better example. I talk that morals are go with you, they age with you. Okay. However, however, my morals remain the same, except that I don't act on them because I am a married woman, because I love my husband, because I love my life, I love the kind of I have. But it doesn't mean that in me, there's like to be in Ibiza right now and having the best time of her life, listening to music and dancing on tables and, all that kind of stuff. Like I'm just like this. But because I know that I made the decision to get married and to, make a life with my husband and all this kind of stuff, is that I say, well, you know what? Love to be playing around and dancing and all this kind of stuff, but I really love and prefer my family, things that I have now, because that's what I want. That's really what I want. So I think also morals at the end of the day, they are what they are and they will not change. That's how I feel.
But the way that I heard you right now, if you
Huh?
would out of these sentences and out of this example, take the word morals out. Just keep the example, but take morals out. The way that I heard it is that Sandra values that her idea of marriage and faithfulness and family. So those are values. It's what's important to you. So in a coaching framework, I go from values to giving thought about how they are being lived. Giving thought about how you're going to live this idea of marriage, this idea of faithfulness, this idea of family, for instance, is going to turn into your needs. In order for this value to be put into the flesh and become part of your life, or of your lived life, rather than this abstract idea, there will be needs associated with it. You're gonna, you will need to stay faithful, you will need to stay no, because part of needs are limits. There are things that in order for these values to be realized, you are going to do or not do. Okay, so you have needs and you have limits. And
Mhm.
so for me, this was a straight textbook thing of your values and how you put them into practice about the things that you're gonna do and not going to do. And that also then of course is this realization, this making of reality, making into reality of these values. They bring in your preferences, your belief systems, your cultural background, and all those kind of things. They're where the rubber hits the road ultimately. And so even without bringing in this concept of morality, which might very well may have its place, but I think that just from a coaching framework, that example that you brought is values, needs, limits, emotions, and belief system based. Do you agree?
Um, I guess, and this is my best guess, that the reason why, and I love it when we clash, okay, because it's clearly something that both of us come from a different background. And the reason why for me I don't agree, it's because I was raised in the United States. I wasn't born in the United States, but I was raised in the United States with a ton of morality. Everything was about morality. Everything was about taboos and all of these stuff. And I can tell you that probably the first 12, 13 years of my life, based on you can't do this, you can't do that, and sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, and sex is bad. Okay. And masturbation is horrible, and all of these things. It was like taboo all the time. So for me, I was filled with morality. Like that was my entire life. And then suddenly I discovered that, for example, to use your example where you say, oh, well, the example that I gave about, yes, I value family, I value peace, and I value happiness. When it comes to morals, if I were to look deep into my morals and say, for example, just an example, God forbid this ever happens, God forbid, that I am actually in Ibiza, having fun, drinking, overdoing it, overindulging, and then, the handsomest guy in the place turns around, looks at me. Well, maybe my morals could be loose, okay? And they could still tell me, well, I'm really not hurting anybody. I'm just, it's just me and this person. And I could really make a really bad decision, okay? Because I'm in Ibiza and nobody's going to find out. So that is morality for me. Those are not values. Because again, I was able to drop all my values, leave them on the side, and just drop it and go with this guy.
Right. Well, I mean, best laid plans. You can have all your needs and your limits like completely ironed out, but reality might hit,
Yeah, see, the reality is,
right, right. So reality might hit, and we can't keep ourselves to 100% standard anyway. That's my belief. It's like you
well, at least you
you
can
do
look.
the best you can. Right, you can look. You can look. No, but see, it's like the question here is, do we hold on to those externally imposed or externally generated or externally suggested rules, or don't we? Like, a few years back, there was like 50 Shades of Grey and everybody was getting their kink on, right?
Yeah.
It's like, so big discussion in terms of morality. Is it right? Is it acceptable? Is it not? Is
Mhm.
it wrong? And so on. So there might be people that have this value of sexual liberties and sexual self-expression, and they might go and experiment, and for them
Mhm.
it's absolutely not an issue to go against these externally suggested rules. For
Mhm.
others it might not be possible to do that because maybe their value is to be proper, and
Mhm.
in their definition of what proper means, because this is all internal model kind of definitions, right?
Mhm.
It would mean that it's absolutely inconceivable to go down and do that, those kind of experimentations, and maybe liberate that part of themselves, if they even maybe have the desire. So this proper being proper is a higher priority maybe than some deep-seated, not subconscious, but preconscious kind of desire to experiment. So I think that, again, morality as a societal construct exists. Because listen, I grew up in Luxembourg, right? We're not that, we're quite firm on things like that as well. But everybody makes their own decisions about how important holding on to those standards of morality that are cultural actually are. And so everybody, looks at it. Two people might have the value of marriage, for instance, but one might have come to an agreement with their significant other that experimentation outside of the marriage is okay, and others might absolutely not be possible because faithfulness is very important. So, um, yes, there are things that are considered moral or not, but ultimately it's a societal codex, or a familial one, or just one that you come up with yourself, to which you hold yourself there, true.
Again, remember, I think we were born supposedly. Okay, let's talk a little bit here. Something about religion that I wanted to see, that I heard today, that I thought, oh, okay. So, uh, how do you, uh, uh, how do you call it people that don't have a religion?
Atheists.
Atheists. Exactly. Thank you. So atheists live their lives based on what is right and what is wrong. They all, like they say, we all know what is right and what is wrong. And I actually have 3 neighbors here that are of that religion, let's say religion, right? Or of those beliefs. And they tell me, you do know that we are atheists, right? Oh, why? What's the problem? Oh, you don't mind. Why would I mind? I said, you're not killing anybody. You're not hurting your dogs. You're not hurting your daughter. You love your husband. I mean, you live a decent life, at least for me to continue being your friend. Why would I bother, in worrying about what religion you are? Those were the good days when you did not worry about people's religion, right? And so, and then this, so to go back to this thing that I heard or read, it goes a little bit like this. It says, when religion when religion and morality are involved, everything goes to you know what.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because think about it. I was like, oh, it is so true. It's not that it goes to sh, right? And blah, blah, blah. It's just that that's when everything is bad, everything is wrong. Don't do this, don't do that. Different than how philosophers used morality, which was more of a positive uh, language used, right? More of a positive outcome on things. And look, this is how it would work for you, this that way, versus a church saying no, no, there's no that. And
It's
atheists,
virtue versus vice, right?
exactly.
It's
So
it's like
atheists is just like, they don't think about religion, and they don't think about morals, because in their mind they already know what they have to do. So I like that. I was like, huh, interesting.
But that doesn't mean that every atheist thinks the same or
Oh,
decides the same,
absolutely not.
right? So, and again, personal choice, needs, limits, personal decision making. and most importantly, responsibility for outcomes, behaviors, thoughts, and so on. Because it's already it's not a trivial thing, and if you get and it's something that outside of maybe a Freudenfreude podcast I would ever discuss. I'm not getting involved in discussions like that about right or wrong and judgments and politics and religion and things like that. I just don't. But here from an, let's say, more abstract sense, as a matter of curiosity, it's really interesting.
Mhm, mhm.
And so maybe one point that I would like to make, we have about 10 minutes left here, is the topic of the show was actually about adapting your values, your morals. So let's shelve the morals
Okay.
now. uh,
Okay.
and your beliefs, right? So
Okay.
uh, values remain. You might choose to reprioritize them, but
Mhm,
fundamentally they remain. If you're
mhm,
somebody who fundamentally values contribution and you fundamentally value being a professional in having a career, and you fundamentally value family, those might change in priority. Maybe
mhm, mhm,
family becomes more important than the career at some point. Sometimes maybe the career becomes more important. Contribution, how do you contribute? On what level? In your personal sphere, your social sphere, your professional sphere, or the world at large. So but fundamentally, what you value and what is truly important to you doesn't really change all that much. The priority that we attribute to them and the expression that we give them in our everyday life, I believe, very significantly can change. And part of what flavors all of that is our belief system, what we believe to be right, how we believe the world works, how we believe we want to express certain ways. Let's take an example of contribution. You might have certain beliefs associated with how you want to live this contribution. How do you want to make this contribution? And you might have invested a lot of into making this happen. Then all of a sudden you learn of a new capacity of yours, a new strength. You might fall into a different kind of contextual environment. And then all of a sudden new options might open themselves up about how you can contribute. And so you might change based on this new information, your new beliefs, your new education. You're going to change the way that you live this value called contribution. Okay, so there's so many different ways about how these things can be made reality. Same with
mhm,
family. In the beginning, you might just be married and then you might have kids. The way that you live
mhm,
this concept of family is going to fundamentally change.
mhm,
And then maybe the kids grow up and leave the house, and your concept of family is going to change again, and how you live it in your everyday and how you make it a reality is going to change. And that change happens and is adapted essentially based on context and based on your belief systems and your preferences and your personality, of course, as well. So, what do you say to that?
I think what you said is very key here. Values stay, they don't change, right? And, as we go along, as we go through life, I think one of the things that you and I have discovered about people when we're coaching is that the majority of the people that we're coaching don't have a clear understanding or a actual, let's say, list of values. they don't know their own values. So it kind of lets me think, well, I think they've been running on ethics, right? They've been running on the idea of my ethics is to be honest, my ethic is to be, hard worker, et cetera, et cetera. So somewhere, somehow they do have their values, they just don't have it established, right? So, and then morality, you can revisit it. It is changeable, it is interchangeable, it does change all the time. So, but values don't. So maybe that is one of the key things. And to follow through with what the purpose of the show today is how to adapt it. I think if it won't hurt to say that values and morality fit into the same space, but remember, they're like little bubbles. Okay, they have their little space, they all move independently, yet they can still be a part of it, because you cannot live with the same morals with which you were raised. You move, experience new situations. Maybe morality is to say, oh, I'm not going to accept other people that don't look like me. And then here you are going to India or to a different country and suddenly you fall in love with the culture, right? You fall in love with everything that it is. And now guess what? Oh, okay. So that was easy. Why? Because you change. And so the same way goes with morals. And so, I think if you were to adapt it in that way, where you're to say, look, I believe in this, but you know what? This is not, like we've said it in many, many occasions, Claudia. What doesn't work for you, you need to toss it out, and you need to bring in new ideas, new things that are actually working for you, and link it to an emotion so that you live more based on values, because values, like we said before, they don't change. So in order for you to live a more orderly life, or a more
Fields.
life that is more fulfilled, exactly, base it on values and not on morality.
Yeah.
That's my part.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree on that. I think that um, every coach with their salt is at some point going to approach the value elucidation process with their clients, that the clients
Mhm.
are going to get more clarity about it, and also about, uh, you know, calling out beliefs that might be helpful or might be limiting, and do a very conscious checking of beliefs. Are they helping me, or are they hindering me? And so beliefs, it's kind of coaching bread and butter also here, or coaching 101, to kind of take apart beliefs and really
Mhm.
radically examine them, whether they hold true, whether they are not like just figments that came from God knows where, but that are actually something that should be believed. Because the danger with beliefs is that they are so self-evident. They're so self-evident that we are not necessarily aware of them, and we live by these ideas that can very well be changed, right?
Yeah.
Um, uh, for instance, I am not a social media person. People might have heard me say this, but guess what? It can change. It can change, and um, these sweeping kind of beliefs, and these judgments, and these self-concept ideas that we have, really putting them under the loop and really examining them, can be very, very liberating, and open up so much of people's potential, and just break open this box that people live in, and expand the comfort zone and the realm of possibilities. So beliefs definitely can be changed and should be examined for sure. And people should be clear about their values. How morals fit into all that, I reserve judgment as of today. But it was very interesting talking about it. Um, do you have something else to add, or shall we conclude at this point, Sandra?
I think what I wanted to add is to just emphasize what I said before, which I think morals are a cultural thing. You also mentioned understand people where they're coming from. And, as coaches, it's our job to try to understand what is that they're trying to get out of, their experience based on their culture. So, yeah, I think it's not easy when you have established your values, your boundaries, and all this kind of things, and you're living by that, for a person to come and say, "Oh, that's not right," don't do that. And so, uh, again, I think live and let live, and remember, it's a cultural thing most of the times.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it. I have fun today.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, so discuss things and learn something new. There we go. Perfect. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This was kind of a very all over the map kind of episode yet again.
Yes.
Uh, but we hope that there was a little, some insights there, or maybe some impulses to self-reflect or learn more. If you have anything you would like to share with us about this topic, please reach out, write it in the comments, or reach out to us, personally, through our social media contact points. Otherwise, please show your love, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, do all that good stuff, and we would certainly appreciate your support. Thank you so much, Sandra. This was a great, great session. I had fun, and we will
Me too.
see each other again next week.
Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for
Okay,
watching.
thank
Thank you,
you. Bye
Claudia. See you
bye.